April 2011, we'd finally opened the doors to our own cafe. And to be honest, my feelings were a mix of relief that we could finally start making some money and anxiety because sales were really slow. The build had already been delayed by several months thanks to problems with approvals and the fit out. We'd spent more than we were planning to set up and the team we'd hired were getting tired of waiting. Now I remember during that opening week, after finishing a 15-hour shift, I was walking back to the car and running the numbers in my head. I knew that we needed sales to grow by around 2.5 times where we were to break even. And I was seriously worried. What if they don't grow? What if people don't love the concept? Our family had invested a lot in this, so if this fails, it affects everyone, not just me. Now, of course, every small business owner has fears like this at times. I knew that because I'd worked with dozens of coffee shop openings back when I was in franchising. Now, I knew there were a few key things I was about to go through as a new cafe owner. So we'll get back to my story in a minute, but first, here's a couple of things I think you should know if you're getting into this business for the first time. It's a business first and a lifestyle second. A lot of people want to own a coffee shop so they can have a better lifestyle, so they can set their own hours or stick it to their boss. But here's the thing, you can't have those things unless the business is making money. And that's not as simple as it seems. Back when I was training new franchisees, I'd see people dive into the coffee shop business who were looking for a change of lifestyle. They're often successful in some other career and they looked at hospitality and thought it'd be a walk in the park for them. Now, more often than not, that was a recipe for disaster because that arrogance meant that they never really learnt the fundamentals and then got burnt out when it turned out to be harder work than they imagined. Every type of business has its own fundamentals that you need to get right to succeed. And these are the skills and the systems that you learn with experienced or from other experienced operators. So the lesson is this: be humble, master the basics, and then reap the rewards later. Now, one truth that hits you as a cafe owner at some point is that your number one job isn't about getting the right coffee or equipment or marketing. It's really about people. Look at any hospitality forum or Facebook group. Most of the posts are some sort of staff wanted ad. Cafes are forever turning over staff. And it's not only because most of the work pays minimum wage, it's also because a lot of venues just aren't great places to work. So the truth is this: a smart coffee shop owner is focused on finding the right people, training them well, and then providing a great place to work. It's not an easy thing to do, but there's nothing that will make a bigger impact in a cafe business than building a great team. Now, speaking of staff, here's something else you really should know. If you're starting a new business, then you really need to get hands-on. When I talk to people planning a new coffee shop, they'll often say, I'll just hire a manager to run it. But for a new business, that's just not how it's going to work. For one, a manager needs systems and a team that's been trained in those systems if you want them to be successful. You'll need to take the lead here or work with someone experienced who can guide you. These things don't just magically happen by themselves. Also, an experienced manager is expensive. When you're starting out, you don't really know exactly what sales you'll be bringing in. So by getting hands-on as the owner, that gives you a big advantage in controlling labour costs. Now, of course, once you've set up good systems and processes and a great team, then in time you can hand over the day-to-day to someone else. That's how it works if you want to scale up and open more locations. But at first, you should expect to be working on the front line, at least until the business has settled into a stable pattern of growth. Here's the hardest part. A lot of cafe businesses just don't work out. Sometimes it's easy to see why. They set up in a bad location, or the concept didn't connect with the locals, or the owner just didn't know how to run a business. But sometimes, even experienced operators open a place that just doesn't work. Everything looked good on paper, but in the end, the numbers just didn't add up. Now, to be fair, this happens far less with people who've put in the work to research the location and the customers and who know how to control their costs. But even still, every business has risks, and in the end, that's something you just need to be okay with before diving in. Alright, so this isn't a video to scare you off starting a business. Despite the risks, cafes can be really profitable and rewarding businesses. Okay, back to my story. After that low point in our first week of opening, sales did start to grow week by week. The growth was painfully slow at first, but things had grown enough that after a couple of months, I realised that we hadn't allowed enough seating in the original design. So we negotiated some extra floor space from the landlord, added some more tables and chairs. By then, we'd started to build a regular customer base who were now telling their friends, and within 6 months, sales grew past our break-even point. After our first year, we'd increased our buying from suppliers so much that we could go back and negotiate better prices on core ingredients like coffee, milk, and bread. Now, month by month, the business ended up growing well beyond my original sales projections, and we ended up selling the business for a profit a few years later. Alright, so how do you give yourself the best chance at success? Well, there is one thing I did right back at the start, before we opened, before we'd even found a location, that made a huge difference. And if you want to steal it, then you should watch this video right here, or I take you through it.